Hello. Today we will come back to the Tang Dynasty and look at a poem written in the early Tang period. We have said before that in poetry, the 300-year or so Tang Dynasty is divided into four periods: the early Tang, prime Tang, middle Tang, and the late Tang. Let's take a look at this slide, which we have seen many times before. We can see we are fairly acquainted with the other three periods, and many familiar poets from these periods, such as Li Bai, Du Fu, Bai Juyi, or Du Mu. Early Tang, in comparison, Chu Tang, is not that important in poetry, and most of its poets less well known. But it is still quite important in that the previous lavish and empty style from the Southern Dynasty was totally got rid of, and poets built a solid foundation, setting the tone for the upcoming great prosperity of the prime Tang. At the individual poets level, there are quite very fine and distinguished poets, though not in as large quantities as in later periods. Some of their best works are also universally considered masterpieces. Top of them all is probably Wang Bo, whose poem we are going to learn today. Wang Bo was a child prodigy, having read tons of classic works even before 10, and could write excellent poems and articles at a young age. He was one of the group of four accomplished poets at early Tang, which people refer to as the distinguished four of the early Tang. One of the other three is named Luo Bing Wang, whom you might have known before. He was also a child prodigy and wrote a poem about geese at 7 years of age. For many children in China, this is probably the first ever poem they learn. It's this poem, Yong'e, which vividly described what geese were like gliding on the surface of the water. 鹅鹅鹅，曲项向天歌，白毛浮绿水，红掌拨清波。Wang Bo is considered a true genius, exceptionally smart and talented. He was promoted to a local official when still a teenager. At that time, the Tang Empire was rising in its power and wealth. So under this background, there was no doubt he had a great future ahead of him. But unfortunately, he ran into some trouble for recklessness due to his young age, and wasn't that successful for the next decade. Even more tragically, on one occasion he had to cross the sea, and due to a storm, his ship sank and he drowned, dying at the very young age of 26. Really heartbreaking. The poem we are doing today is a 五言律诗, i.e., 5 characters per line with 8 lines. It's about saying goodbye. We said before, this is one of the most common themes in Chinese poetry. Almost all famous poets wrote about it, usually from a different angle, creating all sorts of effect. Let's see how Wang Bo approached this topic. Let's read the poem together first. 送杜少府之任蜀州，城阙辅三秦，风烟望五津。与君离别意，同是宦游人。海内存知己，天涯若比邻。无为在歧路，儿女共沾巾. This title looks a bit daunting, but actually it's something we have seen before. It's Li Bai's poem 黄鹤楼送孟浩然之广陵. They are pretty much using the same structure. If we take out 黄鹤楼, the place where Li Bai said goodbye to Meng Haoran, the remaining are nearly the same. Song is to see off. Meng Haoran is a person whom Li Bai was seeing off. And Du Shaofu is a person whom Wang Bo is seeing off. Du here is a surname. And Shaofu is a title of the rank, something like a junior minister. Zhi is a verb. It means to go to. And both Guangling and the Shuzhou are places. Shuzhou was in the current day Sichuan. Even now we use Shu to refer to Sichuan, so it's roughly here. And Ren means to take the government position. So Wang Bo And this Du Shaofu were in Chang'an, and Wang Bo was seeing Du Shaofu off, who was going to Suzhou to take a government position. This poem was written on this occasion. So let's see. This is Chang'an. So he's traveling down here, and Wang Bo is seeing him off. Cheng is city. Que means building. So Chengque is city building. There are many tall and low buildings inside the city Chang'an, the capital. Here the poet was really using this to refer to the city itself. Fu means to assist, to help. And here means to support and protect. San Qing, three Qing. We know that the city of Chang'an used to be the capital of the old Qing Empire. So since then, that area had always been referred to as Qing area. It's Qing, even to this day. And historically, the Qing Empire was divided up into three parts when it collapsed. So people used three Qing to refer to this area. Well, it's not entirely necessary to use this term San Qing in a poem, but we will see the reason Wang Bo did so was to create a pairing structure with the next line. And here, Wu Jing, in which case both words have the same structure, clean and tidy. And in many languages, the order of a sentence can often be reversed. For example, if I say I am happy, I can also say happy am I. Here is the same. The first line means the Qing area as a whole is supporting and protect the city of Chang'an, not the other way around. Again, the reason the poet did this was to create a pairing structure with the next line. Let's have a look at that next line. Feng is wind, yan is mist. And Wang is to look at, to watch from afar. Jing means a port or a fort. Do you know the Chinese translation of the English city Oxford? Personally, I think it is a very clever translation. It's translated as Niu Jing. Niu is ox, and Jing is fort. So apparently, this Du Shaofu would need to travel by waterway, and along the river, there are 5 fords. It was windy and misty, so when the poet came out to see off his friend, they both looked far away at the misty water. This obviously created a sense of sadness, as people do when saying goodbye. And this sentiment is reinforced by the wind and the mist, and blurry vision of places far ahead, which they cannot really see. And then the poet said he fully understood the sentiment his friend must be having at the moment, for having to travel to a foreign place in the far distance, having to say goodbye to the city of Chang'an, which surely everybody wanted to stay in. Wang Bo said, I fully understand this, because, like you, I myself am also in the same shoes. I am also a government official, and I often have to travel from place to place. Huan means to act as a government official. Tong means the same. And Yu means traveling. The next 2 lines are the highlight of the whole poem, stunningly philosophical. Even if Wang Bo did not write anything else in his life, just for these 2 lines, it would probably be enough for him to be remembered by us today. Hai Nei means throughout China. The ancient people believed that China, or actually the whole world, was surrounded by seas at each of the 4 boundaries. So the term 四海, so 4 sea, refers to the whole world. 海内, inside the 4 sea, also implies a world, or China. 存 is to exist. 知己 means a true friend, a confidential friend. 天涯 means the end of the world, very far away from where people are. 若 is as if. 比邻 is very close neighbors. Now, Wang Wei was telling Du Shaofu that he was a very true friend of his, and comforting him not to be too upset by the parting. As long as there are true friends in this world, 海内存知己, then it doesn't really matter if you are separate or not, because no matter how far away you are, even you were at the end of the world, it would be like we are still close by each other. It's so true, isn't it? It's the understanding and appreciation of one's mind that really matters, not the physical distance. So in this poem, suddenly, the tone changed from a seemingly sentimental scene to something courageous and highly spirited, something very positive attitude, determined and fearless, which actually coincides with the general spirit of the early Tang Empire was experiencing, a rise in confidence and seeing things positively. The last two lines were the continuation of this. Wang Bo went on to say, because it would still be as if we were close neighbors, let's not shed tears and then wipe it off with our handkerchief here. Wu Wei means we shall not, there is no need. Zai is at. Qi Lu is branched road or forked road. When people have to split up, they usually need to do it at a junction, a forked road. So Qi Lu here just means a place where people have to say goodbye to each other. Er means the son or man. Nu means daughter or women. This term er nu is often used to refer to the soft and tender side of human nature. So when people get sentimental and shed tears, we like to use er nu. Gong is together, and zhan is to wet. Jing is towel or handkerchief. To wet handkerchief, it really means people have cried, so they need to wipe off their tears with handkerchief. The whole poem really ends on a high note. Let's not cry. Let's look far ahead. We are still very close friends and will remain so even if you are far away from me. And let's keep it that way. Well, 海内存知己，天涯若比邻 was a figurative way of saying things at that time. People loved these two lines because they were so concise and insightful, full of encouragement and inspiration. Having said that, now with everything going online, we have achieved 天涯若比邻 in the real sense. We are truly like close neighbors, no matter where we are. So, both figuratively and literally, these two lines will surely remain popular and loved for years and years to come. That's all. Thank you.